So, got a little bit of breaking news for everybody out there. It seems that Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez is joining his old rival, his old compatriot, Juan Francisco Estrada, in dropping his flyweight belt, the WBC belt to be exact. The WBC belt, he also has the Ring Magazine, essentially the lineal flyweight championship of the world. That the lineage goes back a few decades now. That lineage, of course, is now going to be broken with him vacating his belts and such. I mean, unless he decides to return to flyweight in the future, of course, which is, a distinct possibility, potentially, depending on how things go for him at super flyweight. But it looks like he has officially vacated his WBC belt, and the WBC has now ordered a fight to happen between Juan Hernandez and Nawapan Kaikanha, aka Nawapan Pochokchai, the top two contenders for the belt. I do know that Kaikanha was potentially going to be fighting against Toshiyuki Igarashi on New Year's, on one of the New Year's cards that are typically held in Japan. Usually December 30th and or December 31st. But it looks like now potentially Kaikanha is going to get a shot at this full belt against Juan Hernandez, which I think is an excellent fight. It's kind of interesting because of the fact that the last few days I had seen and heard some rumors about the possibility of Roman Gonzalez actually fighting Hernandez himself for his next fight on December 10th. HBO is offering him a slot on the December as a part of a December 10th card, which would be basically another split site where Golovkin would be headlining, most likely in New York, and Gonzalez, of course, headlining his own card in LA once more. But it's looking like now with these things coming to pass, Kaikanha versus Hernandez will likely be for the WBC flyweight belt. Gonzalez is probably going to have to find a different dance partner. I mean, although it's entirely possible Hernandez actually may even go the way of fighting Gonzalez at super flyweight if that fight was legitimately on the table. This is just a rumor that I had basically read about. There's nothing set down in stone at all. Of course, recently there was a little bit of news with Roman Gonzalez having turned down an offer that was made by Naoya Inoue's promoters, Ohashi Promotions, to fight Inoue in Japan for $275,000, which, I mean, anybody that knows the recent purses that Gonzalez has fought for knows that that is pretty short money. He of course fought Brian Valoria for $250,000. He fought Williams Arroyo for $300,000, and he just got through fighting Carlos Cuadras for $400,000. So, all things considered, he's trending upward. He hasn't lost yet. Usually, the way these contracts are specified out, the purses keep going upwards. It's most likely that Gonzalez would fight Cuadras in a rematch for probably $500,000, if not more so. And if, with regards to HBO giving him his choice of opponent for December 10th, which is basically what it sounds like they're giving him, basically his choice of opponent, he could fight essentially anybody within the top 15 or one of the other champions. It would basically make it so that he could get well beyond $400,000 for his choice of opponent, as opposed to fighting, in theory, potentially the hardest fighter to fight in the division for significantly less, almost half as much, ostensibly, depending on, who he happens to pick, and then how much exactly HBO decides to put up beyond the $400,000 that he recently got for Cuadras. But I just wanted to get that across. Of course, now Inoue had previously given out offers to the WBA champion Luis Concepcion and the IBF champion Jerwin Nakas. So Roman Gonzalez wasn't even his first choice necessarily, because he's looking for a dance partner for his own slot, which would likely be on New Year's as well. It's kind of funny because in the WBO super flyweight rankings, Juan Choritos Hernandez is ranked right there as well. So I'm wondering if Hernandez actually may get extra money to potentially stay at super flyweight, either fight Inoue or Gonzalez, and then the Nawapan Kaikanha versus Igarashi fight could actually go off for the WBC belt. The only problem with that being that Igarashi isn't ranked highly enough. He's ranked way down in 9th. You got Noknoy Sitpraset in 3rd, and then Oscar Cantu in 4th in terms of the flyweight WBC rankings. So, of course, they would take precedence over him. But it'll be interesting to see exactly how this all turns out. As I've mentioned several times recently now, the super flyweight and the flyweight divisions are really heating up And I think that should this Kaikanha versus Hernandez fight come off, it's just another excellent fight. Another excellent fight in a series of really great fights that have managed to come to pass the last couple of years at Super Flyweight and Flyweight. Kaikanha himself, is a fairly big type of a fighter for a flyweight. A guy that could very easily, we could very easily see him moving up to super flyweight within, the next year potentially. He's actually the brother of a fighter who's been a world champion at bantamweight, Sisakitsu Rungvisai. Excuse me, that wasn't him. That was a different fighter. But in any case, there's definitely a lot out there going on. Kazuto Yoka versus Stat Kiatnewat will likely get ordered by the WBA before too long. Of course, we recently had Jonrio Casimiro taking out his opponent in short order. And, of course, we have Dani Nietes rallying up at flyweight now, looking to be the next in line for the winner of Zhou Shiming versus Kwanpichit Wonsuncha. Most likely Zhou Shiming wins that, and we'll see Zhou versus Dani Nietes in what should be a pretty good fight early next year. But as for super flyweight, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how this all turns out. Of course, Juan Francisco Estrada is going to be making his re-debut, essentially, into the super flyweight division. He's had a couple fights there before in the past, nothing on the world championship level, however. But he's going to be making his debut there, or his re-debut there on October 8th. All things go well, there's a potential that he may even wind up figuring into either fighting Naoya Inoue at the end of the year or potentially Roman Gonzalez at the end of the year. Although among the three major names that people want Gonzalez to fight, Cuadras, Estrada, and Inoue, it seems like Estrada is the one guy that Gonzalez doesn't exactly seem too keen on fighting, and it doesn't seem like HBO really seems to really want that fight either, nor have they really wanted to. It seems like since they really started covering the lower weight classes for the most part, it seems like they've been very reticent to ever mention Juan Francisco Estrada's name. I remember hearing Max Kellerman talk about Estrada back when Gonzalez fought against Edgar Sosa, and then pretty much never again after that. He was even at the fight with Cuadras, just like Naoya Inoue was, but while Inoue got shown on camera, got a nice little interview post-fight and the whole nine, Estrada didn't really get much of an HBO treatment at all. So it will be pretty intriguing to see how it all turns about. I was thinking that the potential Gonzalez versus Choritos Hernandez fight could be like a nice, I guess, kind of a, not necessarily a gimme fight, but ostensibly a gimme fight. The way that Hernandez fights is very similar to the way that Cuadras fights. However, he doesn't have the sheer size, power, and speed of a Cuadras. He's a guy that, like Gonzalez, he started out at the lower weight classes. He was a 105-pound contender. Has kind of ate himself up the divisions like Gonzalez. He's definitely not the most lean flyweight you've ever seen, or super flyweight for that matter. As opposed to Kaikanha, for instance, who he definitely looks like he's stretching it to be able to make flyweight in the first place. But all that said, there's just a number of good fights out there, and I'm hoping that they manage to start coming off, man. It's really a shame that Inoue wasn't able to get Concepcion or Ancasa in the wing. It would be nice to see Gonzalez fight one of those two, definitely. And all things failing to have Inoue versus Gonzalez before the end of the year, I definitely wouldn't mind Estrada versus Cuadras, which is something that Estrada's team has called for. They want to fight Cuadras to try and become the mandatory for the WBC. And not Estrada versus Naoya Inoue, because I think that Estrada would be willing to fight him as well. He definitely wants to get back in there and be, basically be the man to topple the guy that a lot of people are demanding Gonzalez fight. One of the ways to get a rematch sometimes is you cut your main rival off of the pass. You cut off all of his potential outs to fight other opponents. So that could be potentially the chase that Estrada is going after, essentially. So all that said, looks like some solid fights are going to be upon us at Super Flyweight and Flyweight. Continuing on in the tradition that has been, or the precedent that has been set for this year. It's looking pretty solid. Unfortunately, another fight that I was really looking forward to between Ganigan Lopez and Pedro Guevara kind of fell through last couple of days because Lopez apparently got injured. But all things considered, a lot of good fights. Milan Melindo, speaking of which, Milan Melindo versus Falan Sakharidin Jr. for the IBF interim belt. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be for an interim belt. I guess potentially Akira Higashi may be moving back up to 115, as he mentioned he was hinting at before. So I'm wondering if Higashi may wind up actually being the next opponent for Inoue for New Year's. That's definitely a potential, because Higashi was talking about wanting to jump up to 115, win a fourth belt. The other thing is, I doubt that Inoue would likely be his next opponent if he's really looking to win a belt. If anything, I'd say Concepcion or Cas would be far more likely if they wanted to do that, which they could put right on the same card as Inoue, since they're both Ohashi Promotions fighters. Definitely playing well. Now Inoue versus whoever happens to be the highest ranked fighter, which incidentally now would wind up being Jamie Conlon at number 3, since Chocolatito-Hernandez would likely stay at flyweight, and he already took care of Kokijim in his most recent fight. And then, they could have Higashi versus either Concepcion for the WBA or Joanna Cas for the IBF. Considering the fact that Higashi holds the IBF at 108, which would make sense for why the IBF is ordering an interim bout to take place between Melindo and Sakharidin. And that's really a great fight, and another great fight too. Melindo and Sakharidin, two essentially top 5, top 6-ish fighters at 108 pounds. Getting it on, man. Two solid fighters at the weight class, and really just in the weight range overall. So solid fights, like I said before. I'm kind of rambling now, but just wanted to get the news out there. Gonzalez, it looks like, is going to be staying at super flyweight for the time being. And Kaikanha versus Hernandez, I'm hoping that fight gets made. It's truly an excellent fight at flyweight. Outside of the champions, essentially, these are basically the two top non-championship level fighters, along with Johnny Nietes. Basically, you got the guys that are the established champions already in Kazuto Ioka and Jamil Casimero. And then you got Zhou Shiming's likely going to be a champion fairly soon on the Pacquiao-Vargas undercard. Outside of them, you got Donny Nietes, Chivas Rodriguez, Naopan Kaikanha, and Juan Chocolatito-Hernandez. Pretty much the top guys of the division. So should be solid, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.